It's been a really embarrassing month for IDubbbz, and honestly, it couldn't get much worse unless...
This next question's very salacious, so it's totally up to you. You can pretend like you don't even know what I'm talking about. She was hitting on one of his sparring partners and was obsessed with him and gave him a VIP pass to the event.
She definitely had a big crush on one of the guys that would come in and spar with them, because anytime they would spar, she would just be super into it and watch every moment. And then, even if he would like beat Ian up, she'd be very into it.
Well, I guess that happened. Also, Billy Mitchell, the king himself, disavowing IDubbbz. I learned that IDubbbz took his wife's last name. He officially receives the stamp of disapproval from the king.
Not that it matters, but the only reason why we chose my name over his last name is because his last name is like just objectively ugly. It's just like an ugly last name. Like Washburn sounds horrendous. Like Anissa Washburn definitely stormed the Capitol. That's how that went. But like, I feel like, I don't know. That's like, to me, Anissa Washburn sounds bad.
It really just keeps getting worse and worse for IDubbbz, the once renowned, once infamous content cop. But now we got this guy replacing him. So good day, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about IDubbbz humiliation ritual because things just keep getting more embarrassing for this guy. So, as you know, a couple of days ago, Ian's former boxing coach came on Ethan's stream and dropped a lot of juicy insider knowledge that he had on the Jomhas, which in an alternate universe would have been the Washburn, but that's besides the point.
And afterwards, everybody's hanging out, and she walks up to Ian and she goes, "You're hungry."
Yes.
And then so they had to leave because Ian was hungry. So she tells Ian when he was hungry. We're like, what the hell?
Now, I've never been the type to really go in for the Anissa ruined IDubbbz life whole theory, but the more we hear information come out against these individuals, the more we hear about how Anissa is this evil snake in the grass that just keeps backstabbing people, that keeps controlling IDubbbz, that keeps leaking his personal, deepest, and darkest secrets, the more it becomes harder to really give any charitability to IDubbbz or Anissa. The little clip that I showed you guys right there, it's just funny, but there's more.
Before he was supposed to start training for his fight camp, right? But then they didn't come and train. And then she decided that she was going to have her tits removed, like, during his fight camp.
Oh, that was the second one. That was
I said 62.
Oh, yeah.
So hold on. Yeah, I remember, by the way, a long time ago, they came out to hang out with me and Hila, and she just was like, so I'm getting fake boobs. And I was like, okay, great. Good for you. The next thing I know, she had them removed, like less than a year later. I was like, okay, I guess. You're saying she did it during training camp?
Yes. Yes.
Imagine being so self-conscious, so egotistical, so vain, that instead of actively training for a fight that you could have won, where you could have looked good, you make your husband miss training camp to get your breasts removed. Keep in mind, these are the people that advertise themselves as boxers. Once upon a time, for those of you who remember, Anissa had boxing promoter, married to a boxer as her Twitter bio, and IDubbbz had boxing aficionado as his Twitter bio. For the past 3 years, IDubbbz and Anissa have been LARPing as boxers. Yet they didn't even train. They didn't even train. At what point can we call this like stolen valor, but for combat sports?
And my brand is at stake. So you need to do two-a-days. That's what pro boxers do. My whole life is fighting and coaching fighters. And I'm like, so if you don't have a good performance, that's going to look bad on me. So for the first event, he didn't do any of his cardio. So that's why I ended up gassing out so bad. And I truthfully believe if he would have just done his freaking cardio, that he would have won that fight. But they couldn't do the cardio because 10 weeks before the first event, Anissa wanted them to buy a house. So instead of doing 2 training sessions a day at that point, they had to cut out training to go look to buy a house. So he literally wasn't training like he was supposed to for that whole first event because they wanted to go buy a house.
So like Ian and Anissa, they could have been these boxing legends that they were aspiring to be, but they genuinely just didn't care about putting in the work to become what it is that they wanted to become. And it appears to be that that's the case even now. They've completely ditched any aspirations or any good prestige that they could have had to create content cops on the internet and talk people online. Which, you know what? It's probably for the best, even as embarrassing as it is, because at least now some competent people, if you want to call them that, if you believe that to be the case, are running this Creator Clash event. It's gotten so bad for the Jomas that they got one of the most embarrassing community notes over on Twitter that I've ever seen. IDubbbz' former boxing coach alleges unpaid bonuses, being fired for reminding Ian of his dad, and politely asked Anissa to take down his training video. The disputer, discussed on H3 Podcast, also highlighted financial and management issues with creator Clout.
And I was always under the assumption that there was no bonus, because even though he told me there was a bonus, he then disappeared for 6 months and I never saw him. So I was like, was there a bonus or was there not a bonus?
He should have definitely gone after this bonus if he's being truthful here. He should have absolutely fucking hunted down his money. Reminder, instead of paying a coach that actually cared about him, that actually wanted him to succeed, according to his coach that is, he potentially spent tens of thousands of dollars flying 300 creators out that couldn't care a rat's about him, allegedly. I mean, truthfully, who knows how much they spent on these hotels, on these parties, on these creators, or how much they spent on plane tickets to fly them out. But regardless, I think it is a little bit of an asshole move to, if true, promise somebody a bonus and then not give it to them.
Do you have any commentary about his potential body odor?
I mean, I say it's true. I smell all the time. It's horrible. A good example is this, because Michael's so nice and he doesn't want to say it, but here's the thing. When we're in fight camp, he does 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, okay?
For the first fight he did. Well,
yeah,
for the first part of the first fight, not for the actual camp.
Correct.
During the camp was when he cut out his 2 days. And that was the most important time to be doing 2 days.
Yes, so he would smell so bad that when he comes back in the afternoon to train, he doesn't shower in between his sessions. And so like the coaches that are training other, members there would just like look at us with the weirdest face, like a stink face. And then Michael would try to take Ian to the corner where there's not a lot of members of the gym, so they don't have to smell it.
I try to take it to the open doorway.
Yeah, so that does happen. I'm not lying. It's true. He doesn't shower.
Now, I got this from my bro, Sleepy, but if you take this into account and then go take a little look over at Anissa's Twitter, you will see, and this might be a coincidence, you will see that this same coach is training Anissa next to an open door. So, again, take this all as you will.
But he's just like, oh no, she needs to train before I train.
But she didn't even fight. She wasn't even fighting.
No. And so literally, in like the training footage, half of the sessions I had with him would be with her.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, and it's awkward when it's your fighter.
Well, he only did half the training. Anissa did the other half. You want to know something hilarious about this? I'm going
to say is preferred over having to share the load of doing 50 jumping jacks with my wife.
Yeah,
what if we do both do them? We'll both do 25 at once.
25 each.
It's preferred over having to share the load. Like, IDubbbz can't be making a criticism like this if he himself, if what he is saying is true, if IDubbbz himself was lazy with his training and didn't take it that seriously. You make a really good point, Sliggins. You really make a good point right there. And also, further on Ian being Anissa's dog.
Well, he went and told Anissa that I told him my brand was at stake. So the next day, she comes into the gym super mad. And she's like, our brand is at stake. We're $500,000 in the hole right now. And we're like,
yeah, whose problem is that, though? It's whose problem is that? Whose fault is that? If it's true. These are people that are very proud of their craft. Imagine hiring them to train you in one of the most difficult sports out there, only to then basically spit in their face and say that you do not value them and not even take them seriously. Not seriously enough to even show up to training most of the time. That is absolutely disgusting and stupid behavior. IDubbbz seriously going for Anissa so that Anissa can then turn around and yell at these individuals. Pathetic.
Supposed to be on the list. And in my mind, I'm like, Ian had invited them. He sent them the email personally.
What a disgusting human being she seems to be. I'm sorry.
Oh, she didn't want any of us there. She only wanted like creators there or people that would, I guess, make her feel like she could get more clout. So she told us
that does make sense. Only people with status. Unironically, like the depictions of like Cinderella and those balls, if you recall that. Only high status folk were allowed to get in those balls. Anissa wanted to have the fucking Cinderella experience for herself. If this is true, that's so pathetic. That is so embarrassing.
And she still had time to cancel stuff when she said that? Like, how before the event was that?
Yeah. I mean, it was 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks before the event. I mean, they
so
knew
she
they
could have made some last minute moves. Yeah.
They knew they were $500K in the hole long before that, right? That's just when they yelled at us about it.
Yeah.
So they could have definitely made moves to reduce spending.
100%.
She wanted that award show so bad the next day. They really, really wanted to have that award show so she could give out awards. Once again, you had heard like...
It makes so much sense. They wanted to have this status. They wanted to have this authority. So they wanted to have this award show so that Anissa can be the important one that made all of this manifest, that made all of this occur, so that she could walk on stage and be like, you earned this award, and I'm the one giving it to you because I'm the one that's responsible for this in the first place. It appears that that's what's going on here. That actually makes so much sense. But on to Ethan, or at least a little bit. I'm pretty critical of Ethan Klein myself, but in this case, I'm going to give him a criticism and a compliment wrapped in one. This Ethan guy is so ruthless. He is such a ruthless individual. Check this out.
If I was Ian and Anissa, I would just basically... People go, what's the end goal? Where do you end? What's the point of going after them and all this stuff? I'm not going... I'll tell you this. If I was Ian and Anissa, I will leave the internet and never come back.
Dope.
Which is basically... That's what accountability looks like at this point.
As much as it sucks to say, I mean, it's true. Ian and Anissa are probably the most hated people on the internet right now. They're so hated that it is the absolute content meta to just milk these guys. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views just watching these videos collectively on these guys. But anyways, that's all I got for today. Make sure to join the Discord in the description. Make sure to check out the live streams. Thank you for watching. See you later. Goodbye.